This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
What a week of wrestling it has been. Oh my goodness, so much news, so many notes, so many rumors. It's going to be a great show today. This is the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. This is episode 190. I'm your host, Adam the Jock Strozinski. And on today's show, CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, or Bryan Danielson, I should say. We've got some intel on what's going on with those guys. WWE may want a monster back, but it sounds like AEW might be in line to get him as well. Also, what's going on with Bray Wyatt? I've got a little bit of a scoop for you there. Of course, we're going to take a look at the biggest topics and trends in wrestling, and there was a bunch that went on this week, and there's a lot that we've got to unpack and uncover. Also, we had Money in the Bank that took place, and I'm going to bring the doc in right now. And you guys know him. He's the one. He's the only. He is the Doc John Macaroon. Doc, we had a pay-per-view this weekend that I felt like it was such a mixed bag. I would say the first half of the show, I was bored out of my mind. It under-delivered, and it left me scratching my head. Now, I think on Monday and I think on Friday, it helped clear up some of those head-scratching moments. But I don't feel like this was a very good pay-per-view. I feel like the last couple matches really helped save it. And the show up of a legend helped, I don't know, it made me pop, and it helped save this show that seemed like it was going down in flames, especially if you were looking online and following along online. Everybody was pissed off. What did you make of this pay-per-view?
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get started, I'm in Chicago looking for CM Punk because I need his ass to sign on the dotted line. He's got to come back so that the wrestling world can have massive returns. But
you're our man on the street.
Yeah, pardon me if I'm not sounding as crisp as usual. I'm out here in the mean streets of Chicago. Might have to duck some bullets here and there, but I think I'm in a safe neighborhood. It's not. I think with my situation, I'm not hanging out in the worst parts, but also
you're not on the south end. The south end is the bad side.
Okay, good. It looks like there's safety and police presence, so I feel safe. But if you hear me going, oh shit, real fast, it's me ducking bullets or someone trying to hijack me as I'm going for a morning walk here on this lovely Saturday. But I want to fill you guys in. When you have a broadcast, one of the key components is when you work with your partner that you got to get the broadcast up and running. And step one for WWE and Peacock has been just an utter disaster when people are going, hey, I want to see this pay-per-view, I want to watch it, and they can't because Peacock has issues, which at this point in time, with all the money they have, with all the subscriptions that they have, it's an unmitigated disaster that Peacock cannot air the WWE network at the same level of quality that was what we have become accustomed to. So that's a major knock.
You know what? There was so much that went on with this pay-per-view. I totally forgot about that. But you're right. In the middle of the pay-per-view, you lost your stream. You couldn't watch it.
So that's a major knock. That can't happen. Everybody is disgusted by the disgusting product that Peacock has become, and it's an utter disappointment. But by and large, if you take away the critiques and maybe our personal preferences, I enjoyed the pay-per-view because of the fact that we got some new stars. We got to see a crescendo build up to a nice main event with Roman Reigns and Edge. And I'll put it to you this way. WWE is not firing on all cylinders, but this pay-per-view had a lot going for it and a lot that went well in regards to good spots, some surprise winners. And I think that it's an opportunity to give this pay-per-view at least a B, but nowhere higher.
Yeah, I think your B is being quite liberal, and you're maybe grading on a bit of a curve here, just because some of the pay-per-views that we have had in the past haven't been great. Let's jump into this, okay? So, change of scenery here, change of what we had on our card prediction. The Usos and Bray and Dominic Mysterio opened the show, which was a bit of a surprise for me that these guys would be opening the show because they've had such a good story. The fact that they aren't even necessarily the curtain jerk, they're the match before the curtain jerk, was a little bit odd to me. But the Usos end up defeating Rey and Dominic Mysterio, which surprised both of us, especially with all of the issues that you've had going on with the Usos and the drinking. So a bit of a conundrum there for both of us. Didn't really make sense. I think long term, this was the plan. I think it was to create this bloodline faction with Roman Reigns and the Usos, and then possibly try to work this all back around to The Rock at some point, whether it be at WrestleMania or whether it be someplace down the line. But a bit of a strange ongoing there. We didn't think it would happen just because of all the legal issues that are going on surrounding the Usos. Now, the women's Money in the Bank is the curtain jerk. It's the show to kick off the main events, or to kick off the pay-per-view. In this, you've got Alexa Bliss, you've got Naomi, Natalya, Tamina, Asuka, Liv Morgan, Zelina Vega, you've got Nikki Ash. This was, I'm trying to be polite here. I don't think this was a great match. I don't think this was a great Money in the Bank match. I think you had a chance to really put a couple of people over and really highlight them. They chose to go with Nikki Ash as the winner of this. Now, I thought it was a cool moment when she got done winning it. She went up the ramp, she climbed the ladder, and she was in tears. She was crying. She was bawling her eyes out. And I thought that was a really cool moment because it meant something to her. It looks like they had a plan for her. Now, this left both of us scratching our head because she was the last person we thought that would win this. It kind of makes sense what happens a little bit later, especially with another women's match that we have on here, how it all kind of plays out on Monday nights and kind of how it all kind of wraps together. It's weird when you watch these pay-per-views. Sometimes you have to remember it's kind of a 2-day event. It's not necessarily just what's going on today. There's always something else. After that, we've got AJ Styles and Omos. They end up defeating the Viking Raiders for the WWE Raw Tag Team Championships. Bobby Lashley absolutely murders Kofi Kingston for the WWE Heavyweight Championship. At this moment in time, when this match took place, and really at the end of it, I was disgusted. I was pretty much over it. You have Rhea Ripley, who is the champion, come out first. That never happens, and there is no reason for that to ever happen. Only to have Charlotte come out second. Usually when you're the champion, you come out second, and the challenger comes out first. So right off the bat, I was pissed, just because you broke protocol. And then this match took place. And how Charlotte doesn't get disqualified for using a set of steel steps on Rhea Ripley's knee, I don't know. I really feel like WWE at certain points just makes the rules up as they go along. And this was one of those instances. In the end, Charlotte defeats Rhea, and I was absolutely checked out on this pay-per-view at this moment. We had questionable match with the opening. You had Nikki win the women's Money in the Bank. AJ and Omos and the Viking Raiders, I didn't think it was a very good match. Bobby Lashley's match left a lot to be desired. And then you had this take place, and there were so many flaws, and there were so many flags I threw on it. I was pretty much done. You needed to bring me back in a big way. It all kind of, like I said, it all kind of makes sense what took place with the Charlotte and Rhea Ripley match on Monday night. But at the time when we were watching this, I was pissed and I was done. I wrote a lot of nasty things on Twitter, at WWE. So you can go find some of those threads and find some of the stuff that I wrote there if you want to. But after this match, we get the men's Money in the Bank. And I think you and I can both agree. This was a really good match. This was a really good match. You have Big E, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, Ricochet, John Morrison, Matt Riddle, Kevin Owens, and Shinsuke Nakamura. Now, just those names alone, those are some high-quality, big-name guys, and all these guys are extremely athletic, so you know it's going to be fantastic, especially when you work a ladder into a ring for a match. A lot of high spots. You had guys jumping over everything. You had guys going through ladders. You had a whole bunch going on, only to have Big E win. Now, this led to a bit of an internal debate between basically our friend group on through text message, Doc. And you were extremely upset. When we did our picks, we both agreed that it would have to be either Big E or Matt Riddle would kind of get the push here. And I think we both have been extremely impressed with Matt Riddle. I was impressed with him coming out on Monday night with his little segment with John Cena. I thought it was fantastic. I thought he's funny. I think he's great. He's humorous. I think he does really good work in the ring. But you don't believe that Big E should have won Money in the Bank, and you don't believe Big E has what it takes to be a WWE champion. You don't believe that he is a credible champion. I want to give you some time to kind of explain yourself. I kind of sped through everything that got us to this point because I feel like this could be lengthy, and I want to give you all the time in the world to kind of break it down for us.
Yeah, I think he's a perfect candidate to be the Money in the Bank winner. I think you give him the shine. He's deserving of it. So it's not like I was shocked because, like you said, we predicted it. And just real quick, my quick thought on the stuff you talked about. Look, you had Bobby Lashley squish Kofi Kingston, and I mean, come on, and it was worse than before. So now you look at it and you fast forward to the other member of the New Day, and it's Big E. Do you see him winning the title and selling seats and being the guy that's at the level of Bobby Lashley and Roman Reigns, when those guys are such top of the mountaintop, that Big E, to me, is a feel-good story, is somebody that obviously the fans would like. But in my opinion, I saw the same level of character that showed up on Monday Night Raw when Keith Lee was introed and was fed to Bobby Lashley. Because of the fact that Big E's been there, I think he needs to actually have a couple more meaningful feuds that result in some good quality matches, some more intrigue, maybe even a close opportunity where he gets close to the title and gets screwed out of it by MVP so that when it's time. I don't know. I just think that Big E at this point in time, sometimes you do get beholden to your gimmick. And he's been such a part of the New Day for so long that it's hard to separate him out yet as an individual character because WWE hasn't made it meaningful yet. I mean, at this point in time, he stands there in the ring, and it's like, okay, I want to go buy tickets for what? Big E versus The Miz, Big E versus Johnny Morrison. I don't see big money pay-per-views with him headlining it when you see the poster, when you see what's going on for SummerSlam. I mean, at this point in time, the WWE is bringing back guys in their mid-40s and 50s because they don't believe that they have enough high-end talent. So if they want to do it, I think the best case scenario is the exact opposite of how they handle the women. The women, they get the title, they get the Money in the Bank, and they cash it in right away. Big E needs a nice 10-month tease with this Money in the Bank where he just periodically peeks in on Roman Reigns, peeks in a little bit on Bobby Lashley whenever he feels like it, and just says, hey, guys, I'm here. And you need to elevate him a little bit more to make him believable as this big worldly character that can sell seats. You got to have him get some big wins against AJ Styles, against Riddle. Have him show up on NXT. Maybe even, a little bit of tease in character where, we saw on SmackDown, which we'll talk about, the next guy in line is Finn Balor. Maybe Big E gets pissed off, and when he sees Finn Balor about to win, he shows up and destroys Finn Balor, costing him an opportunity so that he can get it. You got to do a little bit more to make him believable because you can't have a mid-card guy. He's not a bum. He's not Keith Lee, but he's not at the level of Roman Reigns and Bobby Lashley, and that's where we need to get him. And so that's where the WWE needs to take the next 10 months and continue to elevate this character with shining the light on him with Money in the Bank. And I think that's what they're going to do. They can't give it to him right away. It's not believable.
Okay, so a couple things out of what you said that I want to put. There's something I definitely want to put a pin in because we're going to talk about it when we get to Monday night. You said something about Keith Lee there. You said Keith Lee is a bum. I want to put a pin in that, and I want to come back to that when we get into our Monday Night Raw segment, when we start talking about that.
You look like a bum to me. You look like a bum to me on Monday.
Let's just put a pin in it. It's interesting. I think what you said there is there's a lot to unpack there. This is the way I look at it, right? And this is the way I look at Money in the Bank. Going into this match, you have a guy like Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, and Kevin Owens. I think all of those guys are completely over and have been there, done that. You then mix in guys who have potential or have the ability to be what you want them to be as far as a champion. I think John Morrison has those skills. I think Matt Riddle has those skills. I think Nakamura has those skills. And I think Big E definitely has those skills. And those skills include, can you work in the ring? All those guys can. Can you cut a promo? All those guys can. Sub Shinsuke Nakamura, but if he's got somebody as his mouthpiece, it's not bad. Are you believable when you're in the ring? Look, Big E even though he's a little bit short in stature, I think he's like maybe 5'9", and most of these guys, most of the champions that Vince likes are 6'1" and above. Even though he's a little short in stature, you won't find a more barrel-chested, bigger dude than him in WWE. You could line him and Bobby Lashley up next to each other. And yeah, Bobby Lashley will probably stand in about 6 inches taller, but they are both built pretty damn similarly, where Big E is as thick as peanut butter coming out of the fridge. The guy looks like a refrigerator. So he has a look. He's over with the fans. He can cut a promo. The guy can work in the ring. He can do pretty much anything, and he's done it all. I think he is believable as this person. Now, I totally agree with you. You can't cash it in right away. You've got too many different storylines that are really, really good going on with both Roman Reigns. I think Roman Reigns has been absolutely fantastic. We're about to get into him in a second. And I think Bobby Lashley, you have to give him a little bit of a leeway here to really get this more intense Bobby Lashley over. And I think at some point you can cash this in. Like you said, a nice 10-month run before he cashes in, kind of teasing him cashing it in, I think it works out fantastic. I think, though, he was the right pick for this. It came down to him and Matt Riddle. And I think Matt Riddle's got a lot going on, especially with some stuff going on with Randy Orton that we'll talk about in the news and notes segment. I think he was the right pick coming out of this match. Now let's jump into the main event. Roman Reigns ends up defeating Edge for the WWE Universal Championship. I thought this was a really good match. This was high quality, high caliber. This was fantastic. This is some of the best action we've seen from Roman Reigns, and Edge looked really, really good. Seth Rollins ends up losing the Money in the Bank. He's in the back, cuts his promo. You know he's going to interfere in this match some way, somehow. Wasn't exactly sure what he was going to do, but he comes in and basically decimates Edge. Roman picks up the win. And now what you've done is, from this main event, you were able to spiral out 2 stories. And this is good booking. This is good booking. And we don't give WWE enough credit when they do this, because they don't do it very often. But this was good booking, because what you did was you took a guy who was in the match prior to the main event, who ended up losing, cut a weird promo in the back just before this match took place. You knew he was going to get involved. He ends up getting involved. You weren't sure if he was going to get involved with Roman Reigns or if he was going to get involved with Edge. I think we all kind of thought he would get involved with Edge. Ends up getting involved with Edge. Now we've got that storyline going forward, which is great. It picked up on Friday night, and it just moved, and that's fantastic. Yep. You also have Roman Reigns now, like, okay, what's going on? After he wins this, and he wants everybody to acknowledge him, only to have one of my favorite entrances of all times pop and hit when John Cena shows up. Now, look, we speculated about it last week, and we knew he was coming. We said he could come before the July 29th episode that he was predicted to show up. He shows up after Money in the Bank. I popped hard. I was sitting on the couch, and I'm like, ba-da-da, da-da-da. I'm throwing up my little fingers, and I'm dancing around. I was like a kid in a candy store, because I love John Cena. I love his entrance. Cena comes down, and they have a few words, no microphones. Anyways, show goes off the air. And I'm going to give you time because I want you to unpack all of this. I'm just throwing it all out there. Just put it on. It's like being a kid and you got Legos, you dump them all over the table. All right, this is what I'm doing right now, because you're gonna build a monster after I get done dumping it all over the table. Cena at the end ends up cutting a promo to the fans that are still there. Basically says, this is not a one night thing. I'm going to be here for a while. So I don't know how long a while is. I don't know if it's just to SummerSlam, but you can expect to see John Cena popping up, whether it be on Monday Night Raw or whether it be on SmackDown. You can expect John Cena to be in the mix and on these shows going forward. I think maybe his movie schedule has dried up a little bit and he's got some time. So when he's not doing movies, he's here in wrestling. What did you make of basically this closing segment and how it all started, especially going back to the Seth Rollins promo in the back to John Cena showing up and basically saying, you can't see me, bro?
Yeah, absolutely. I think first and foremost, Black Taz, Big E will have an opportunity to grow. and
Taz.
That's what he is. That's what he is. I mean, if harken back, go back to Peacock and look at what I'm talking about. For all you diehards, you know what I'm talking about. Big E right now is Black Taz, and he's got to work his way up, in my mind. Maybe not for the fanboys, but in my mind, he's Black Taz. So heading into it, like you said, everybody was tuning out, getting all pissed off. And then you get to this main event and you're like, wow, what's going on? And then you have this visual of Seth Rollins, interfering and kicking Edge to cost him the title. There was a lot of false finishes. There was a lot of submission holds. It was great. I thought for a second, maybe they made it believable that Edge could take the title off of Roman Reigns just for a brief moment. But then with all the interference obviously going on, it made for a quality ending in that we get Roman Reigns keeping the title with some help. But bottom line, I think it did what everybody wanted it to do, which is you don't take any shine away from Edge and you give him his next character, his next feud to beef with, which is Seth Rollins. And oh my God, this is how you use a veteran superstar, is to put him in feuds that are engaging, that have meaning, that make a whole hell of a lot of sense. And this one makes sense. And this one, it doesn't matter who goes over. Seth Rollins can be a legend no matter what. Edge can even get over in this feud because he got caught something important. I absolutely loved it. I love John Cena coming back. But here's the thing that unfortunately is a byproduct of having John Cena and another aging veteran, which we'll talk about on Raw, show up to fight in the biggest. It's a direct indictment on how the company has not elevated big stars.
Well, they don't trust anybody.
Exactly. And it's unfortunate because are we really going to see anything different with John Cena? He's going to tell jokes. He's going to make the feud, a little bit more intriguing. But does anybody believe John Cena is going to walk out with the title? If they want to have the big swerve, they should have John Cena win and let him stay till Survivor Series and then let maybe somebody else get the rub off of him. But in my mind, it's intriguing to see at least John Cena come back. A slimmer John Cena. Maybe the cost of the anabolics allegedly potentially could have gone down or gone up. That he's not taking anymore. He looks a lot slimmer, a different version. But hey, maybe when you're working out a little bit older, when you're 44, you don't get to have that lean, big, bulky body anymore. And to sustain a 10-year, maybe more run that he could have still, you got to be leaner and cleaner. Maybe that's what he's doing. But in my mind, unless John Cena's a heel, we've seen it before. Mm-hmm. Best part about it, though, is Pat McAfee and the announce crew and Michael Cole really made it feel special. And when Pat McAfee drops the where, it's subtle yet effective and beautifully timed to the point where everybody understood it because John Cena, you can't see me. So by and large, Money in the Bank did what it was supposed to do, garnered a lot of attention and pushed a lot of storylines forward. And it right away led to intrigue because they told us, hey, John Cena's showing up on Raw right away. Mm-hmm. And it was good. It was good. Now, from the picks, you went 2 for 7. I went 3 for 7. I picked up an extra point for the winner of the men's Money in the Bank pick. I lead you by 3 now, 6-3, which then leads us into Monday Night Raw. And again, there's a ton to unpack from this pay-per-view on both Raw and SmackDown. And I think NXT was the bridge here. So basically the WWE products, we spent a lot of time talking about this pay-per-view already because there was so much there. And it leads to a lot more with the shows that took place this week. Now, I'm not sure about you, but I felt like Monday Night Raw was frustrating, and it was frustrating for a couple of different reasons. And I think we should start off with Karrion Kross. Oh. Karrion Kross, I'm just going to say it. He gets fed to Jeff Hardy. I don't understand the point of this. It doesn't make sense. If you're a WWE fan, you are watching Monday Night Raw, you're watching NXT, you're watching SmackDown. All right, you understand what Karrion Kross has done in NXT. You understand how he's been positioned as a complete and utter badass. Only to have him go up to Monday Night Raw to face a guy like Jeff Hardy. Look, I like Jeff Hardy. I think Jeff Hardy's great. I think the Hardy Boys were fantastic. But at this point in Jeff Hardy's career, he hasn't been on TV in a while. On top of that, let's just be honest. He's Jeff Hardy. He's a guy who is, at this point, he's a solid mid-card hand. There's no reason for him to be anything other than that because, one, his age. Every now and then, if you want to throw him a bone, you can have him win a title, but he's not a guy who's going to be contending for anything huge.
So you bring Karrion Kross up, feed him to him, and I just don't understand the point of it. I don't. And we're going to get into some stuff in NXT, kind of about how Vince views NXT, and we're going to kind of unpack some more of this. So it's going to have a lot of crossover between Monday Night Raw, NXT, and SmackDown this week when we kind of break down these shows. But what did you make of Karrion Kross losing to Jeff Hardy?
Look, we're talking about it. It set the internet ablaze because Karrion Kross, in essence, did not lose any of his feuds in NXT. But I think now, realistically and objectively, we can surmise that Vince does not really take into account a whole hell of a lot about what someone does in NXT. The fact that they get the call up is indicative of the fact that, okay, we like you. And then, unfortunately, what us as diehards want is a little bit of carryover of success in NXT into what we would call a push. Victories and the light shining on you and being the big megastar. But as much as we push back on it, we now just have to accept the formula is, and it makes it boring, but it is kind of now tried and true. You get your call up, you get put in a position to have bullshit losses so that the fans can scream and yell, oh my God, this is a major injustice, which is a form of attention, buzz, and it produces a character potentially like Big E, like Kofi Kingston, like Daniel Bryan, and this is their formula. Now, we've yet to see it on the other side so that we can make a determination as to what would have happened if Karrion Kross comes to WWE, wins for another year like a Goldberg, and becomes a megastar. We have yet to see somebody come in and have a massive push from NXT to the point where you're like, holy shit, this is Finn Balor. Probably that's the last guy, reasonably speaking, that had that. WWE has their formula. I don't think this is an indictment on how Vince views NXT characters because he wouldn't put them on TV. He wouldn't give them the microphone to talk. He wouldn't give them the microphone to talk after a loss. As much as I joked about that, I now, after reflecting on it, realize this is just Vince's psychological profile as to how to get the fans behind somebody where they go, oh my God, you screwed this guy. Unfortunately, in this day and age, though, the response, I think, is starting to turn into, fuck this, I don't want to watch this anymore, I'm going to go watch AEW, which is the exact opposite of what Vince would want. And I don't know if somebody's telling him that or if we're wrong, because we're talking about it. I think now we want to see what does it mean when Karrion Kross said, this is the worst mistake you're going to make. And if this is the launching pad for Karrion Kross, I can start, if you just start to dig deeper into the crazy mind of Vince McMahon, it starts to make sense. Unfortunately, it's the same old boring routine that maybe with Karrion Kross, I think everybody would not be disappointed if he was given the shine and given an opportunity. It didn't happen. He lost to Jeff Hardy, and let's see what happens. Maybe he now goes on to whip Jeff Hardy's ass and looks like the killer that he can be. Killer Karrion Kross. We'll see, but this is Vince's formula, and this is what produces when anybody goes from NXT to WWE. The response online is, don't, stop it, you're going to get screwed. And it happened on Raw. Pissed everybody off.
Well, here's the thing. This is what I think is interesting. When you watch a show like AEW, and they'll bring a brand new person in, and they'll lose their first match. Like, just kind of keep track of going forward from now on, because I've been doing that. I've watched when they've introduced new wrestlers, and usually that new wrestler will lose a match, or sometimes there's some 50-50 booking that goes on. But you don't ever feel like it's a death sentence. When it happens in WWE, you feel like it's a death sentence. And I think it's because we've seen this time and time before. And you said it yourself. Keith Lee's a bum. Keith Lee, I think, is the perfect example of how it can derail your start, how it can derail your career. Keith Lee was an absolute stud in NXT. If you watched any of Keith Lee on the independent scene, he's absolutely amazing. In our notes here, I have Keith Lee is alive. It's confirmed. And then there was some stuff that happened after. We'll talk about Oldberg after. And I said Oldberg with no G. And I said that for a reason. But you yourself said Keith Lee's a bum. And I don't think Keith Lee's a bum, but I think he's been so mishandled, so misutilized. And for him to come out, he gave Bobby Lashley a nice run for his money. But at no point did we believe that Keith Lee was winning this title or was going to win this match. I want you to delve into your Keith Lee is a bum statement that you said, because I think that plays a direct correlation to what we've seen with Karrion Kross, and we've seen how he is booked in his first appearance. Keith Lee was a guy who was brought up last year, and there was a whole lot of pomp and circumstance, and we were like, oh my God, this guy's great. He looks awesome in the ring. He can stand and go toe-to-toe with some of the biggest and baddest in WWE, only for him to end up on the side of a milk carton. And they uncovered him. They dug him out of the mothballs and brought him back, only to have him lose to Bobby Lashley.
Here's the thing with Keith Lee, and here's the thing that we got to pay attention to. Can he really cut a promo? Is he really a guy with great ring psychology? Is he more than just a big body that can move around the ring? I think it takes a little bit more in WWE to showcase your skills and to impress Vince. And we've said it, whether it's right or wrong, Vince gets bored quickly, and I don't know if this is going to be the way that Keith Lee comes back from starting at the bottom, but right now he's viewed poorly by the company, and he got destroyed by Bobby Lashley. It's disappointing at the highest level for that to happen, but right now, whether we think he's great or not, Vince views him as a peon, and he got fed to the champion. And it's unfortunate, and we'll see where it goes from here, but he just may be a character that needs to take his licking, put everybody over, and go to a new company, because this in WWE is not working out. And with how this plays into Karrion Kross, I think it's two different things. I think Karrion Kross, I think the company views him as potentially somebody that can be in some big feuds. I think for whatever reason, and we'll figure it out, someone will reveal it. Something happened that pissed Vince off, whatever it may be. Maybe a move or a match was overhyped and he didn't deliver. Something happened, but right now the company views Keith Lee as a nobody, and that's why this is what happens. If you start seeing him lose every match, he might be on his way out.
It's possible. It'll be interesting to kind of see what happens. Now, at the end of all of this, when Keith Lee loses to Bobby Lashley, Goldberg comes out. Now, we thought we knew this was happening. I'll be honest with you. WWE did a good job throwing us off the scent by bringing Keith Lee out, because it totally distracted us. It was like a cat in a laser light. You're like, oh, look at that. And you're just totally sidetracked by everything else going on. Only to have Goldberg come out and basically claim he's next. So Bobby Lashley gets to fight Goldberg at SummerSlam.
60 seconds max. It's a cash grab. Goldberg, we knew, signed a contract to have some matches and feuds. This does nothing for nobody. And the only thing we can bet is to be entertaining is how long the match goes. 2 minutes, 2.5, 2:45. I'm gonna because I'm getting my ass kicked in the challenge, I'm gonna say closest to the time of the match gets a half point. Because that's the only intriguing shit in this, is how long this match goes. I'm thinking 2:25. I'll hone in on my skills based on how much Goldberg blows out when he walks to the ring, because dude's sweating walking to the ring. So I'm going to hone in, and I'm going to have my prediction. So stay tuned to our SummerSlam prediction, because it'll be entertaining.
Yeah, I don't understand why you end up bringing him in. His matches aren't any good. Like he's sloppy in the ring. This is two guys. Like, neither one of these guys have to be put in the ring, and they have to be put in a spot where they've got somebody else helping put them over, because they're just two big brooding guys. Now, I think Bobby Lashley, his in-ring work is much better than Goldberg, but I don't think that's saying a whole lot, because I think you could go in there, you could be out of shape, and you could not have ever ran the ropes, and I think you're going to do a better job in the ring just because you understand the ring psychology aspect of it, and you're going to work your ass off. Goldberg, I don't understand the fascination here with it. It doesn't make any sense to me. All right, I think the surprise moment, Raw closes out, and Nikki Ash cashes in on Charlotte Flair, who got herself disqualified in a rematch against Rhea Ripley. Raw reading online and looking at a couple of different things that took place with this match, it makes sense why Charlotte won. Rhea ends up going full heel. So Rhea, it was weird, this build-up with Charlotte, because Rhea Ripley was kind of this weird gray character, while Charlotte was the heel. It just never really seemed to capture the imagination, especially since we've seen this before. And we've seen it play out the same exact way when they were in NXT. So that was frustrating. But in the end, Charlotte gets herself disqualified. Rhea turns full-blown heel, attacks Charlotte, only to have Nikki come down the night after winning the Money in the Bank and cash in on Charlotte. That was a pretty cool moment. It was a surprise. When she was cashing in out loud, I said there's no chance in hell she's winning this, only to have her win it. So WWE gave me the big fat finger, and Nikki ends up winning. What did you think about Nikki Ash cashing in the Money in the Bank to win the Women's Championship the next night? So WWE gives me the big fat finger. She's now your champion. Well, what did you make of this entire scenario? Like, she wins it on Sunday night, cashes in on Monday. Charlotte basically held the belt for less than 24 hours. Where are you at with this? It seems like it's a bit of a whirlwind.
I'm intrigued by it. It's very interesting. I think that there's a great opportunity to see this new character. I'm not thrilled with superhero characters, but almost superhero. Hell, she's worked hard. Let her do something with it. Let's see who gets it back first. Is it Rhea? Is it Charlotte? And you know it's pointing to a three-way at SummerSlam. Well, this is what we get.
Hot three ways. Yay.
Yeah.
All right. NXT. All right. So, like I said, there's some crossover between Monday Night Raw and what took place at NXT. I think the best storyline of the night on NXT is you have an enraged Samoa Joe stalking Karrion Kross, who the night before was on Monday Night Raw. Is it strange for you to see Karrion Kross debut on Raw, lose a match to Jeff Hardy, and then jump into what feels like a long-term storyline in NXT?
No, because of the fact that we understood that there's going to be crossover. Karrion Kross is just beginning on the main roster, and I think that it's a great opportunity for Karrion Kross to keep going and to have, building intrigue. How do you see it playing out? What do you think is the best way now moving forward in your mind?
It's weird because I think Samoa Joe is going to be in NXT for a long time, and if that's going to be the case, I think Samoa Joe needs to win this, especially after Steven Regal gets taken out by Karrion Kross. But if you want to build a guy and you want him to look like a total badass, you can't have him lose to Jeff Hardy, and then you can't have him lose to a recently what seems like an unretired Samoa Joe. So, I don't know. I feel like WWE has kind of painted themselves into a bit of a corner here as to who they're going to elevate and how they're going to elevate them. I think you do a long-term storyline. I think they have a couple of multiple matches, and I think they beat the shit out of each other in those matches.
Nice,
where there's really no winner. You have to call the match because they're both incapable of moving on. So you build them both up, only to at some point, we'll say Karrion Kross suffers some type of an injury as Samoa Joe attacked him from behind. He goes to the ring, basically battered and bloodied, only to have Samoa Joe win. Karrion Kross can then move on to Monday Night Raw if that's what they're going to do with him. Now, the interesting thing that has come out, there's been a report that talks about how Vince views NXT and how Vince views the characters and their storylines. And basically what it says is Vince doesn't give a shit about NXT. He doesn't give a shit about those characters, and he doesn't give a shit about those storylines. I want to know how you feel about that, because I think it's pretty accurate. I think that report is probably closer to the truth than it's a lie. And I say that because look at Karrion Kross, look at Keith Lee, look at a lot of the wrestlers that have come up into Raw, into SmackDown from NXT, and look at how they've been utilized. Vince doesn't care. You're basically a pawn for him.
No, I think it's fair to say that he doesn't need to care because he's given it to Paul, and Paul's done a good job with it in his realm. But you got to remember, the CEO of the company doesn't hire the interns. Okay, the CEO of the company doesn't interview the security guards. The CEO of the company handles the big thing, the mergers, the deals, the day-to-day big stuff, Raw, main roster stuff. Vince says, Paul, you got NXT, feed me the people, and then these people will come to our system, and we'll put them in what we believe. Now, when you say cares, I think you're conflating that with push. He has to care about everything because money's involved, TV deals. What we're looking at is, does he push NXT stars to where they can be big stars? And arguably the biggest one is Finn Balor, who just showed up on the Friday night show and just spent time in NXT. So I think what people need to realize is Vince has his vision and he's making billion-dollar deals, and he believes that this is how you get a character over. If they show up on TV, that's your opportunity. He gives people rope, and if they don't impress him and they don't make him have a boner, or if they're not hot or a female, then the rope is very thin. And this is a man probably with ADHD, and he's got 100 wrestlers, and he's shipping half of them to AEW. And he still has a clean profit and loss sheet. So I think you're mistaken by saying he doesn't care. I think that what you're saying is that the NXT stars are not prioritized with their pushes, as opposed to the guys that are built in that he likes and he picks, like Braun Strowman, like Bobby Lashley, like Roman Reigns, these big, hulky, muscular dudes. And if you're not in that category, you probably are going to end up like Malachi Black, and your stories are going to be shit, and you're going to have to try to get over somewhere else.
See, I think what happens is it's not so much. I don't necessarily think he cares about what's going on in NXT. I think he cares about the overall health of the business. But I think what he puts a priority on is he puts a priority on the casual wrestling fan, and he doesn't prioritize the diehard wrestling fan. You and I would be considered diehard wrestling fans, and I think there are people who are even more diehard than us. And I think what he ends up putting more of an emphasis on is, cool, the casual wrestling fan who's tuning in on Monday after a Money in the Bank pay-per-view to see what happened or to see John Cena knows who Jeff Hardy is. They don't know who Karrion Kross is, so we'll have Jeff Hardy get over. And I think that's kind of the mindset is, how do we throw a net wide enough to basically capture more people instead of really honing in and feeding who your main demographic is? I mean, look at us. We took this particular show. This was a segment on a podcast that we've been doing since day one. And we were like, you know what? We got really good feedback on it. People like it. So you know what? Let's just do another show. Let's just build this out and make it bigger and longer and better. And now today we're pushing almost an hour, and when we're only supposed to be doing a half hour, 40 minutes, but there's so much to get to. So we could never have done this particularly on our old show. But what we did was we're like, let's hone in on this subset that is listening to what we're doing and give them more of what they want. Vince doesn't do that. He just tries to the masses, and I think that's where things get lost. But I think what you did was you did a really great job setting up a segue to talk about Finn Balor. Roman Reigns did not accept John Cena's invitation to fight him at SummerSlam. However, Finn Balor came down, and man, Finn looks good. And we talked about this. Will Finn Balor be the guy to challenge Roman Reigns? I think it could work. I think especially if we get the Demon. Finn lays a challenge to Roman Reigns. And I love what's going on with Roman Reigns right now. Roman Reigns looks so comfortable in the ring, and that's so refreshing and so reassuring. This heel character, him going back and forth with the fans, I love it. I love it. Like you get some personality from him. This is something we haven't seen in forever. It's fantastic. And what you get is Finn Balor comes down, issues a challenge to Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns accepts it. What's happening next? Are these guys fighting next week on SmackDown, or is this the plan now for SummerSlam? Have we been thrown off of the scent again by WWE, and are we getting Finn and Roman at SummerSlam?
Well, being that you got a triple threat for the ladies, why not triple threat for the guys? John Cena and Roman Reigns and Finn Balor. That probably would sell some tickets.
Yeah, I mean, that would get some tickets. I don't know. I don't generally like three-ways unless it's porn. Usually I just like to see two guys go in there and just duke it out themselves. But it'll be interesting to kind of see what happens. I'm not sure. I was excited about it though. I thought this was an interesting SmackDown, especially with John Cena coming out, opening it up, and then Roman basically coming out and saying, hey, it's the same old John Cena. We didn't get any innovation from him. Did we get anything different? No. And because of that, I'm not accepting your challenge. Only to have Finn come down and say, hey, well, what about me? I loved it. I thought it was great. We are up against it. We've spent a ton of time in this show. We've got a lot more to get to. Give me one or two things that you really liked about Impact, if you could.
Yes, absolutely. Slammiversary was great. A- show. Kenny Omega kept his title. I was shocked. Truly shocked. But the bigger news was the fact that Jay White showed up at Slammiversary and he made his Impact debut. And now, I'm just going to stick to this one thing. Obviously, Mickie James showing up was cool. We're going to see her character development in the future episodes. We'll talk about what the new debuts that showed up on Impact, what that means for the company. But we're getting the Bullet Clubs feuding. Jay White and the old Bullet Club members of Kenny Omega, the Good Brothers. It was cool to see in the ring, and I'm thrilled. I can't wait to see how this angle plays out. Jay White is a legit star, and to see him in an Impact ring only makes it where this crossover has so much potential. The Bullet Club feuding is something that has been in the underworld of professional wrestling, and now we get to see it on American television. I'm all for it. I can't wait to see it.
Also, rumors are Okada showed up just as the show was going off the air. So we talked about that Forbidden Door. It seems like it's busted wide open between AEW, Impact, and New Japan, which is fantastic. I thought it was really weird on AEW to see a New Japan championship, the U.S. championship, change hands on AEW television. I think what you get there, it tells you that there is some strength in this relationship between AEW, Impact, and New Japan. It seems like the three of these companies have formed a triforce, and what you're getting is a lot of fun that we've all wanted for a long time. Lance Archer ends up defeating Jon Moxley to capture the NWJP US Championship. Now, look, there was a lot that took place on AEW, especially with Fyter Fest and all of the craziness. Nick Gage shows up. Chavo Guerrero shows up. There's a whole bunch there that we can really get into. But I think the biggest thing making its way around the wrestling world is it sounds like CM Punk and Daniel Bryan Danielson are absolutely done deals. Now, here's the thing. This is what I can tell you because I've tried to go to multiple sources to get 100% confirmation. I do not have 100% confirmation on either one of these, but this is what I can tell you. Bryan Danielson, a.k.a. Daniel Bryan, it sounds like he is already signed, and they are looking to debut him in the next couple of weeks. It sounds like he is an absolute done deal, and the reason for him going with AEW was he wanted to be able to wrestle in New Japan, which makes sense. It sounded like WWE was trying to make some type of a relationship with New Japan. That didn't work out. But AEW, like I said, they strengthened that relationship, especially when you have a title belt changing hands on a different promoter's television. That shows you there's some trust there. Now, as far as CM Punk goes, CM Punk sounds like he is about 98% done. Doesn't sound like he's 100% signed on the dotted line, but it sounds like it's all but done. So, two of the biggest and baddest names in wrestling sounds like they're going to AEW. Now, I said Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson will be showing up on AEW television in a couple of weeks. CM Punk, this is the speculation. I think this is a really good thought. And a lot of this was put out by Dave Meltzer, but this is kind of him going through what he knows. Now, they have a pay-per-view coming up in September. That is all out. Before that show takes place, there will be a Dynamite in Chicago, where you're at right now, Doc.
Oh my God. I'm going to go scout this arena right now.
So, you debut CM Punk in Chicago, It helps boost your pay-per-view sales because CM Punk's a freaking draw. It doesn't matter. Debut him that Wednesday, boost the sales for that Saturday or that Sunday show, whatever day they pick, and he might not have a match that day, but you debut him to only have him possibly come out during that pay-per-view. What do you think about this? Boy, the wrestling world has flipped upside down.
AEW is being aggressive, and that's all you can ask for. They're about to potentially take the lead. I think that the intrigue, the interest is going to be there. We all want to see who these guys are going to feud with. Hell, if you want to capitalize, have them show up together. Let them be the two guys, the outsiders, and maybe you get your potential new world order and have a third man. Who could that third man be? It would be kind of funny if it was John Cena, and I think that would be the fucking greatest ever if you could have the new version of the new world order with Cena, CM Punk, and Daniel Bryan just taking over AEW. That would be something. That would be some hilarious ass shit. But at this point in time, I think that we all just want to see the debut and let's get our reactions out of the way, and we'll see what eventually takes place from this. But AEW is being aggressive, and after it takes place, the ratings are going to skyrocket, and I think that AEW is going to firmly put their name out there in this competition, and they might eventually take the lead. It's awesome stuff, man. It's really, really, I can't undersell how excited I am. There's, people around me, so I can't jump and yell and mark out, but I'm going to mark out when this shit happens, man. It's great. I was freaking out online when we saw this stuff come out. It's crazy. I can't believe it went down. It overshadowed, obviously, Fyter Fest, but hey, I can't wait to see Nick Gage taking on the Painmaker, Chris Jericho's alter ego. It's just going to be some great stuff happening in the next couple of weeks. Stay tuned to the Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast because we'll be here for it. We'll give our reactions. It's going down, baby. And to conclude this podcast, hit me, cuz, with this week's professional wrestling top news and notes. What are the top 2 or 3 items that people have to know about?
So creative isn't the reason that this superstar is sidelined. So Bray Wyatt has not been on WWE programming since the night after WrestleMania 37 in April, and fans have been left in the dark a little bit, and they're wondering why he's not on television. According to PW Insider, there is a specific reason why Wyatt's being kept off television, and the feeling within WWE is that reason isn't related to a creative decision. No other reason has been given other than it's a specific reason that he's not on TV. However, it is not creative. I don't know. It's really weird. You got to kind of read between the lines there. I'm not 100% sure what's going on. We're going to delve into this a little bit deeper, and hopefully next week I have more intel. Randy Orton has been absent from WWE television for over a month now, with Riddle keeping the spirit of the RK Bro alive, which has been absolutely fantastic. Now, per Fightful Select, Randy Orton has been on the disabled inactive list for the last month while he's not been on television. There's said to be no issue between Randy Orton and WWE, and the hope is that he'll be back on WWE TV in time for the August 2nd episode of Raw. So again, just some murky things going on in WWE with some high-end superstars, not getting a ton of information, but little things are starting to leak out. So maybe as more goes on, we'll get more information and we can really help crystallize what's actually taking place. Now, the Monster Among Men did tease a potential match in AEW with superstar Wardlow on Twitter earlier this month. AEW talent scout Mark Henry, who previously worked with WWE, told TMZ Sports that he's got Strowman super high on his wish list. There's already interest in both sides.
What? Who's the third man?
There you go.
Braun Strowman with Mark Henry as the advocate. Tell
there
me,
you go.
Bryan Danielson, CM Punk, Braun Strowman with Mark Henry. Tell me that would not be the baddest motherfucking faction in the history of professional wrestling. You could carry that angle for the next 3 years if you had anybody that could write something. Oh my God. I'm just excited I threw it out there. Oh my God. It's an invasion. It's an invasion. Vince is trying to buy Tony. Let's just recreate history. I mean, we see, all these remakes. Let's just remake it. Let's just copy it. WWE wants to invade AEW and take over, baby. And it's starting with the debut. That would be funny, a little bit of nostalgia, if CM Punk comes in and he's like, you don't know why I'm here, and just walks out. Everybody would know what he's talking about. That would be funny. You know who I am. but you don't know why I'm here. And he just walks out. Dude, I would just do that and tease it and never run with it. I think that would break the internet.
It would break the internet. So here's the thing. Braun Strowman's contract, or his non-compete part of his contract, is set to expire on August 31st, 2021. So, again, we talked about that September date. He would be in line for that. So there's your faction idea that you were talking about. Now, according to the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter, WWE is interested in bringing Braun Strowman back, particularly after AEW has signed this last batch of WWE wrestlers. Now, WWE clearly has the money to keep Strowman despite all the budget cut excuses that they had. So it will likely come down to whether or not Strowman wants to continue wrestling. He has suggested in the past that he would like to do more bodybuilding. If you follow Braun on Instagram, the guy's got himself in great shape, fantastic shape. He was a power lifter before he was a wrestler. So going into bodybuilding makes sense. But WWE may well accommodate that desire for him, especially if Braun looks even more intimidating. So it'll be interesting to see. But that's it for this week's wrestling news and notes, my brother.
Make sure you follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Anywhere you listen to your favorite podcast, type in 3 words, Detroit Sports Podcast, and our content daily will find you, where we cover all things Detroit sports, Adam's personal life, his love of mountain climbing, his love of snow, his love of travel, his new love of spending big money on golf clubs. All that can be revealed if you follow us and listen to the daily podcast, where we broadcast from anywhere. If I'm in Chicago, or Adam's in Bermuda, or in Colorado, or Milwaukee scouting out where the hot parties are, all the fun stuff happens at Detroit Sports Podcast. We keep it real, we keep it fun, and that's what we love about interacting with all of you, is that you put us on the map in Detroit sports, and we're sticking around. We're not going anywhere. We're not jumping ship. We're not going anywhere. We're sticking with the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.